Hey everyone. So, the topic of the day today is vintages and specifically wine vintages. Um, it's not something I think gets talked about that often, but I kind of just wanted to touch upon it today for anybody who is learning a bit about wine and wants to sort of understand why vintages can be important. Um, why do wine vintages matter? Well, I guess you could say because every year, even though a wine could be made by the same producer with the same methods in terms of fermentation, aging, all of that, the kind of variances on a year to year basis can really affect the quality and flavour of wine. And so that's why some people, mainly people who are really fanatical about wine and maybe wine investors that perhaps buy from some of the more expensive regions of the world, like world famous sort of Bordeaux, Burgundy wine collectors, they really, really pay attention to vintages. So why is it different? Well, the main thing really, to be honest with you, is weather. So if there's been a particularly rainy year and maybe there's not been enough sunlight in that wine producing region, you might have slightly less ripeness, sugar ripeness in the grapes. And so, they might have quite an astringent flavour. On the other hand, if it's been a really sunny year and it's been too sunny, I know it sounds like a really weird thing, but wine can get sunburn as well. So grapes might have experienced sunburn, and so that might also affect the flavour. And so, there's lots of different ways that wine can vary from year to year. One particular region which has a really delicate kind of sensitivity to the weather, I would argue, would be Chablis. Anybody who's never tried a Chablis, it's a Chardonnay made in France. And that region sometimes has really terrible years where they experience a lot of wind and hail. And not only can that put the flavor and the quality of the wine at risk, but actually the yield of wine that's produced as well, because the hail can be so powerful in the region of Chablis that it can actually destroy the vineyards. So that's just to give you guys a bit of a taste of what it means to buy a specific vintage and why some people place so much importance on it. For anyone who's watching this who is already clued up about vintages, and maybe you're watching this and you actually really do your research and you read the Wine Spectator and you read Decanter and you look for specific vintages to buy, I actually have a weird but genuine question, which is, are you superstitious about vintages as well? The reason I wanted to ask this is because I was literally just at the supermarket and I was parked near this really big, expensive Land Rover, and I was being really careful not to get too close to it because obviously I didn't want to scratch it and then have to pay the owner. It probably would have been so expensive because it was such an expensive car. But one of the things I thought to myself as I was near this car was that actually I didn't really care that it was expensive because I saw on the number plate it was made in 2020, and I thought, as much as I should be jealous of that person for having a really cool big car, I would never buy that car from him or anyone because I literally wouldn't buy a car that was made in 2020 just because I actually would see it as a sign of bad luck. Now, you can make fun of me, and I completely accept that it is a bit ridiculous, but it just occurred to me that that was genuinely how I felt in that moment, that I was like, I really would not buy a car that was made in 2020 just because it was made in 2020, and I just wouldn't want to go there. I think I would just feel a bit superstitious. Maybe it's because I'm half Italian and Italians are pretty superstitious. So I wondered if you felt like that about wines made in 2020. Are you going to avoid drinking wines made in 2020 just because they were because they were made in 2020? Genuine question. I'd really love to know, but more from people, if you're like someone who actually buys wines from a specific vintage because you know all about the vintage, please let me know. I've never met anyone in my entire life, even though I've studied wine for years, I worked in hospitality for like most of my 20s. I never met someone who really valued and really paid attention to vintages. So if you're one of those people, I would love to hear from you. Write me a little message, put a comment, and I'd love to hear what wines you collect if you're a collector, or if you actually have any specific vintages that you've still got in your cellar or wherever you store your wine. I would love to hear about it.